Hello, hello, what is up? What is good? We have a new chapter of One Piece after one of the most crazy and exciting cliffhangers, like, ever, maybe, and in the entire series. The revelation of Emu, one of the end game villains, perhaps the final boss of the whole series. Who is to say? Uh, Lots of people had been speculating ever since we were first showing Emu in silhouette what they would look like. A lot of people predicted a woman. I also kind of predicted a woman, honestly. A lot of people thought it might be some sort of gag fake out. Super ominous, high level, powerful character ends up being a goofy looking fella, kind of like Vegapunk, who I think looks awesome, but is certainly also very comical and over the top. I think the idea that Narora Emu would just be like a sexy demon dude that just looks like unironically straight up cool was probably at the bottom of a lot of people's prediction lists as the most unlikely thing. It just does not it's not the move that Oda makes very often, which I think gives it even more gravity and weight. He looks kind of like a Lunarian, like king, an ancient lost race of gods that lived atop the Red Line in time immemorial. He also looks like an ancient giant, kind of, with the big curvy horns coming right out of his forehead. So just an amalgamation of lost races, maybe even other ones. He's got elements of Luffy's Gear 5 as well, in the billowing clouds around him and the kind of halos that wreath him. But he also has the devil tail that the people he demonifies sometimes take on, which just kind of operates on this entire other axis of, like, evil that we haven't really seen from other villains in One Piece. We've seen some assholes, we've seen some selfish and inconsiderate people, we've seen some people with godlike ambitions like Enel, but we've never really evoked the idea of evil, of demons, of things that just have this inherent opposition to goodness until we started messing with Emu and Domi Reversi and all these other related things. So there's a lot going on here just with this character design, and I gotta say I am absolutely humbled by the fact that he just showed up after what seemed to be kind of like the climax of the Elbaf arc. I'd always been a believer that this wasn't going to be it for Elbaf, that something more mysterious and significant was still going to unfold on this island, given the whole astral world lair and the big sword sticking into it that nobody's acknowledged yet. I thought there was definitely going to be more to come with Elbaf, but never in a million years would I have guessed that Emu himself just shows up after all of that. Just seems completely insane to me. And, I just completed a reread of the entire series I'd mentioned before. And while I was reading it, it really felt like the jigsaw pieces were just falling into place, and the scales were falling from my eyes, and I could see the future of the series. I felt like I understood all of the moves it was going to make from here until Laugh Tale, right up until the end of the series. I still kind of think that. I still have some predictions that I feel pretty confident about, but this was not one of them, and this is really, truly a humbling moment. Like, I realize now, whenever I try to estimate Oda, I'm underestimating Oda. Anytime I try to make a plan for his plans, he laughs. Alright, let's get to the chapter. It's called Omen. We have a very silly cover page here. Vegapunk modifying Zeus to rain candy instead of water. Chopper is, of course, in heaven. Very good, very good. Okay. Alright, so we get as well the anti-drums of liberation. the drums of oppression or whatever. This insane counter rhythm that marks Imu's arrival, but in many ways is similar to Luffy's drums of liberation. Okay. He warps down, able to demonify passively houses and trees. For scale, it seems like he's smaller than the average giant. And this is kind of interesting too, asking who is the king of this land. But you guys knew the whole time that there was no king. Like, it's a rhetorical question, I suppose. But, I don't know, maybe could also signify something he's missing. I don't know. The design, of course, is crazy. But already, there's kind of a feeling of, like, aloofness, I guess. Aloofness to the extent that it might be, like, ignorance. That it might be so far above the world unfolding beneath his feet that he doesn't really even understand what he's seeing, who he's speaking to. We can see on the back, too, on the cape. I wasn't really clear on what this was before, but it's the Abyssal Mark, which I think, I'm really reflecting now, is a lot like the Skull and Crossbones. That maybe this was a symbol that Joy Boy modified way back in the day to become the first Skull and Crossbones, to signify rebellion against the world government. Okay. Instantly slicing off Gerd's fingertips without even making the slightest bit of effort. We just see his weapon swing in the aftermath. Releasing Sommers. Ugh, it is quite gruesome. This is a type of injury that we don't see depicted in One Piece very often. It's very real. You know? Like, for some reason it feels... Because I guess it's a little more low scale. Like, it's like a kitchen accident. It feels like a lot more grounded. And a little scarier because of that. Unlike somebody getting their arm, like, exploded off, where you're like, they'll probably fix that arm. They're gonna look badass without an arm. Here it's just like, oh god. Her frickin' fingers. How gruesome. Yes, indeed, how gruesome. Okay. He recovers his steel heart, which has something to do with, his regenerative powers. Zoro, the first one to square off against Imu. It's kind of a typical role for Zoro. I don't want to get on too much of a tangent too, but Zoro seems to always be fighting people with dark skin, huh? And yet again... It's like a stupid meme I've seen before. Anyways, yeah. It's pretty common that Zoro will have this sort of opportunity and then unfortunately just get jobbed. And then we realize, yeah, this guy is the real deal. The characters realize it too. I mean, we already know. Hadrogen. Oh my god. Jumps forward. Stanson loses a limb to protect Hadrogen. Scary, man. These are the new giant pirates. These guys are all, like, crazy strong. And moreover, they've all been out having adventures, fighting incomprehensible foes. And still getting caught lacking. Okay. Zoro jumps in. King of Hell, 3-sword serpent, Purgatory Onigiri. One of his strongest moves ever. countered by Imu's tail, which flies in. Damn. What is about to happen to him, though? An attack called Omen, which is also the chapter title. I think this spells doom for Zoro. Dude is already kind of living on borrowed time. Ever since the fight against King, when he saw that apparition of death, it's been feeling like there's something that needs to come home to roost. Some payoff, some karmic retribution, in a sense, to how Zoro has been cheating death for so long. I don't think he's gonna outright die here, but like something bad is gonna happen. And I think also this goes with my thinking that we're gonna have like late game power-ups for all the Straw Hats. So he's gonna emerge like the Phoenix. He keeps coming back. You can't kill him, but he's gonna have to go to like a real deep dark place before that. Now, here this is kind of interesting. This ka-ching, to me, kind of looks like a gun being loaded or something, you know? And before, when Gunko was being controlled by Imu, Gunko kept summoning like guns and cannons from little summoning circles, which I think gives us maybe a bit of a hint as to Imu's powers. Something to do with weaponry, something to do with free matter summoning or creation or something. Okay, Zoro is just knocked back. Honestly, not that scary looking an attack. It just looks like he's been shot. And Hadrogen jumping in. Awesome shot of Hadrogen jumping in. Exploded back. Okay. And then Imu grants this halo of black flame to Sommers. Omen. Seems to totally revive his powers. Then they just jump back, running off to God knows where. I don't really know what Imu's plan here is. Are they still trying to kidnap kids? It feels like it's a little late for that. If they were going to, conquer Elbaf, surely they'd want to take out Jarul. So I don't really know what they're doing. And it seems like Sommers, while receiving this power, also receives the plan, Like, it's not like they needed to chat it out. He knows where to go. Okay. Warning to all of Elbaf, some kind of being greater than the Knights of Gods has landed on the island. Be on guard. Okay, so Imu flying over with these giant black angelic wings. It reminds me of the Lunarians who have wings as well. I like it too that Imu, he's strong, he can fly, but he can't just teleport everywhere, He warped in using the summoning circle, and then it looked like he could kind of warp around small distances. But here, to cover a big stretch of Elbaf, he needs to fly like a bird. His wings are going flap, flap, flap. I'm happy that already Oda is seeding some ground on the idea that this is just some sort of perfected, omnipotent demon lord entity, right? At the end of the day, I think something that's very, very strong about One Piece is that all of the people are just dudes, There's kind of human limitations to everything. Logia that can dodge attacks by shifting into elemental forms and stuff. When they get hit, they still just get hit. They don't just undo all the damage. And the Holy Knights, right from the jump, they seemed really abhorrent because they could regenerate. That seemed like they were cheating the rules of the series that have been established for 1,000 chapters. But I think that just added to it. that feeling of aberration. And then we found out pretty quickly, yeah, okay, there are ways to overcome this and deal permanent damage. That's some puzzle that we're still unfolding, but very quickly Oda was like, we're not going to jerk you around about this. I just think that it's a better villain when already you can kind of see the seeds of his destruction. Like Kaido is another good example that he seemed invincible, right? Like we saw him jump from the sky to island, and they made a big to-do about all of the ways that he's tried to kill himself and all the attacks he suffered, and there's basically nothing is marring him. But then you also see that he's got a big scar on his chest. So you know from the jump he can be hurt, right? Like, I think a lot of other shonen villains that go the opposite route, where they really try to, like, exaggerate and boost claims of invincibility and of untouchability or whatever, to an extent that when they finally, you know, have the big battle and the heroes start making some progress, it kind of feels like, oh, okay, well, you were just, like, lying then. And then, whereas, you know, like I'm saying here, that's just a big bird. That's just a big goofy bird. Usopp can shoot that guy down. Okay. Keep your weapons on you. So Gunko gets freed. Imu flies over, blasts Gunko with this other, like, makeshift weapon. They're firing off these black flame bullets and bombs. This is the chapter title Omen. This stuff. But keeps flying. I like this too. That, like, Imu is kind of on the back foot here, it feels like. Running around the whole island trying to do all this stuff. They're trying to save the other Holy Knights. Okay, even in God Valley I never felt hockey like this. And then trying to scarf down all this burnt food. And we got a real monster on the island now. I don't know, but the hockey is tremendous. If it's an ally of the Knights of God, they might be after. Yeah. They show up to free St. Killingham. Sanji as well, given the opportunity. Yeah. Jumps forward. Attacks Imu. Again, like, blocking attacks. Not just, like, tanking attacks and chuckling and laughing them off, but actively fighting to block attacks and stuff. I really like that. I was kind of worried with the introduction of a character like this, which sort of occupies a slot that we haven't seen before of, like, end game villain, you know, that Oda would succumb to the temptation of being like, I'll show you how different this guy is. Zoro can land, like, a slash right on him and he just, like, scoffs. Sanji can kick him right in the face and he doesn't even bother to blocking because Sanji is still just like a little insect. And I think that would have been kind of lame. That would have been, I don't know, not as exciting as, like, oh, this guy is gonna fight them like any other villain, you know? And he's just that much stronger. He's just the strongest one yet. And they're revealing this, like, they're still showing that there's a gap, but it's not an uninteresting gap. Like, it's, I don't know. I'm harping on about this a lot, but I'm really happy with this decision. Okay. Sanji kicked away. Loki appears. What do you want with Elbaf? I search for the killer of my faithful servant Harold, who had been slain here 14 years past. And I am the man you're looking for. See, if not for thee, all this trouble would be avoided. Here in the real world, you deal with me and Elbaf. Remember that, clown. Hell yeah! Okay. Pretty sick, nasty chapter. Now we get to see Loki take on a foe befitting of his strength, you know. Not just some dork-ass Holy Knights that he can one-shot. Okay. Crazy stuff. Still not. Because it's like, okay, there's a few ways this can go. We're not going to have Emu just lose. Right? But Loki could be strong enough to force Emu to retreat or something. Because Emu, even though he moved his whole actual physical ass body here for the first time in God knows how long, still has limitations and blah blah blah, and can only fight full power at Marijois or something like that. Can only fight for so long at full power or something. Who knows? So Loki could have the power right here himself to drive away Emu. They could also get involved the astral lair and whatever the fuck is going on up there. They could involve the giant sword, which I swear to God is still gonna come up at some point. He did not draw that shit just for shits and giggles. At the same time, though, it's like it would kind of be rude to Loki. He has kind of his first like real big showdown moment, for him to be so outmatched that an invocation of an even greater power is required. Plus, it's like, if Elbaf did have this super, super secret power hiding, surely it would have been passed down in legends in the same way that Loki's Devil Fruit was. Maybe they're not totally unaware of what it is, they don't have control over when to activate it, but they would at least have foreshadowed this a little bit, I think. Maybe. I also think that after Egghead kind of had a climax where an ancient power of Emmet was revived and drove away the 5 Emperors using Joy Boy's locked away hockey, they wouldn't do the exact same pattern on Elbaf. At the same time, though, I really do still think that something like is gonna happen with those mysterious elements that will be impactful to the story in some way, and it isn't just like going, oh, neat. Oh, so this is what's up here. Neat. Okay, see ya. So how do you reconcile those two things? I don't know. I don't know. But I also still do think that Loki's gonna join the crew. I've been humbled a lot, but in my humbling of my theories getting dashed upon the rocks of Oda's ideas, I still have my pet favorites, and Loki joining the crew either by some sort of size magic using that owl, or by getting a big new ship. I think that one's less likely. Something, I don't know. I still think it's likely. Alright, we'll see. We'll see in a week, I think. Unless there's an unannounced break. So, yeah. Crazy stuff. Alright. See ya.